Well, good evening, everyone. This is the Rooftop Sports. Here I am with Trident Podcast, as always, along with others like Steve. But here is Trident Podcast, and we are just 24 to 48 hours away from finally meeting each other in Peoria, Arizona. Got the paperwork done, got everything signed off, so I will be there before the gates open at 11:30. So we'll be doing this kind of podcast with the background of spring training. So you'll get to see beautiful baseball field, or better yet, you could see us sitting right by a wall, and that's all you'll see. But at least maybe you'll see some sunshine upon us. So I'm looking forward to that. Trident, how are you doing? And I heard it's raining. The game canceled.
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, a big welcome to Arizona for you in a couple days. As most people know, I live in Arizona. And yeah, it's looks like Seattle a little bit today. It's pouring rain out there. Some pretty big winds. We've had a weird winds this winter into spring. It's been kind of odd weather. So hopefully nice and sunny for you on Saturday. I think it's supposed to be, you were saying before we hopped on, but yeah, it's, I always laugh when people from Washington come down here and starts raining. Like you got the one day a year that it rains in Arizona or something. So, but I'm doing great. Looking forward to this weekend.
It looks like the Seattle weather has been going over to Arizona. So that's why I guess the T-Mobile Park problem is also going to
the marine
Arizona. The marine layer is always there. So I guess as long as Mariners are the home team, they will always have the marine layer problem no matter what. So maybe someone will make another case video on that. Who knows?
Yeah, it's just been kind of it's been wild out here a little bit with the weather, but yeah, it's rare when it rains a few days in a row here, so we should be good to go for Saturday.
Well, for us in Seattle, we know it's no different. It's more weird when there's sunlight consecutively during this kind of season, which it has happened. But now we're dealing with rain, so I guess we pass the buck over to you.
I like it. I'll take it.
Now we've got a show to do. We're going to first talk about Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson made one of his rare visits to the Mariners organization, which it is clear that it is very rare because he's had beef with the Mariners organization, unfortunately, due to the fact after 97, he was looking for a big contract, a new contract extension, but the Mariners ownership and management just wouldn't budge, hence why he had a down first half at least, in 98, where he still struck out around 200 batters, but his ERA was really bad. He even openly admitted that he's like, yeah, I'm distracted. I want a new contract. So that's why I got traded to Houston. And with the exception of getting the Mariners Hall of Fame in 2012, getting a ceremonial first pitch in 2010, visiting Ken Griffey Jr. for his Mariners Hall of Fame, we haven't really seen a lot of Randy Johnson with the organization, which is unfortunate. So that's why it was kind of like a shocker when he showed up to vibe with the starters, catch up with Mariners great Dan Wilson, now the manager. So it's good to see Randy Johnson. Maybe he gave some advice to the pitchers, especially the starting pitchers, which is one of our more generational talents of that rotation. So hope Randy Johnson gave him a few words because that's how he was able to develop his game through Nolan Ryan. So maybe Randy Johnson is passing the buck to the guys of like the George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Brian Wu, Bryce Miller.
Yeah, it was cool to see the big unit back because like pretty much everything he said, he's just one of the guys you don't see as much as, say, well, I mean, now Edgar's on the staff, but Edgar, Jay Buhner, those guys, Dan before he was the manager, were always kind of around the organization. And Randy was one that, like you said, just wasn't around a whole lot. So always cool to see the big unit stop by, and always makes me nostalgic for my childhood a little bit when I see the big unit. So, very cool to see him around. And yeah, listen, a guy like Randy Johnson tells you something, you listen. So anything he can pass on that'll help these guys is a net positive in my book.
Absolutely. And what were some of the things you remembered about Randy Johnson? Like, what's like the best Randy Johnson moment that you had as a Mariners fan or even a baseball fan?
I remember it sticks out to me. There's a couple obvious ones, but three that really stick out to me the most is I think it was 98. he pitched in Boston for their home opener and dominated 8 innings, like 15 strikeouts, I want to say. And then the bullpen blew like a 5-run lead without even getting an out, a combination of Heathcliff Slocum and some others. So it just kind of summed up what the Mariners' problems were in that era. I'm sure you remember the ejection with Kenny Lofton. I think that was also in 98. So that might go to some of the stuff you were talking about with frustrated about the contract. And then, of course, I mean, 95, right? Like Randy pitching the 1-game playoff against the Angels, coming in from the bullpen against the Yankees with the crowd just going nuts with Randy walking. I mean, I can still hear, I'm getting chills, like goosebumps talking about it with Randy coming out to the mound. For people that are maybe a little bit younger, don't remember Randy. If you remember Felix, if you're old enough for Felix, God, it sounds weird saying old enough for Felix, but if you are, imagine the Mariners making the playoffs and Felix coming in from the bullpen, with the game on the line. And I guess today, imagine, a Logan Gilbert. I'm not putting him on Randy or Felix's status yet, but imagine, game 7 of the World Series and, on 2 days rest or 3 days, Logan's coming out from the pen to pitch a couple innings. So those would be the 3 that kind of, the best one and a couple that stand out for me. And I'm sure there's many others as well. And then, even though not Mariners, the Diamondbacks World Series was a lot of fun to watch him pitching.
What was the game that you remembered who was he pitching against? Because I'm looking at the stats right now where he pitched
Boston
15 strikeout. Oh, it was April 10th where the Mariners had a significant lead. They were down 2-0. Then they took a 3-2 lead, then 5-2, then 7-2. Randy Johnson had pitched. How many innings did he pitch in this game?
8.
He pitched 8 innings, 15 strikeouts. Like this was like supposed to be a guaranteed win. And then the bullpen magically gave up 7 runs by the combinations of Heathcliff Slocum, Tony Fossis, Mike Timlin, and Paul Spoljaric, who gave up the grand slam home run to Mo Vaughn.
I remember that because funny enough, I lived in Boston when that happened. And their, opening day in Boston is a holiday, essentially. So we actually had a classroom where the TV was on. We watched that game and everybody in the class, and I'm the only Mariners fan, who the heck's a Mariners fan in Boston? So, I was all excited, like, hey, my team's going to win. And then that 9th inning was just, that was just an utter gut punch and kind of summed up 98.
It did. Like back in 98, it was Randy Johnson pitches well, or even 97, you can say. Randy Johnson pitches well. The offense explodes. Like you have Ken Griffey Jr., Alex Rodriguez, Jay Buhner, Edgar Martinez, all hitting a home run. Some of them hit 2 home runs. And then you'd think that, and then Johnson comes out, is like, yeah, they're going to win. Oh, nope. Then next thing you know, they lost. They gave up a huge lead. Now, my memories for Randy Johnson, I don't really have any because I was just way too young to watch Randy Johnson in Seattle, unfortunately. I mean, I remember a little bit with 2001 with the Diamondbacks. And, I did see live that Ichiro did get the infield base hit at the All-Star game in 2001. So I do remember that when it was 51 versus 51. So that was a moment there. But I guess one of my more funny favorite moments with Randy Johnson was when he was in the New York Yankees. They tried to stick a camera in his face, and he was just not having it. Like, he just kept slapping the camera down. He just kept saying, no cameras. Like, I think it's safe to say that he did not like being in New York because Randy Johnson's a very humble guy. Like, he doesn't really like to talk to the media that much. And when he does, he gives, like, his robotic, like, voice. And when he talks to you, he sounds like he wants to like throw the ball at you kind of thing. And yeah.
100%. That's kind of, I remember the incident you're talking about in New York. I remember that one. Randy's always, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons he hasn't been around as much. I'm not saying he can't be charismatic and personable, but like, there's a reason a guy like Dan Wilson's a manager now, right? And Randy's not like, Dan's very personable. Like you can tell when he talks, he's got this kind of, I don't want to say aura, but this sort of vibe about him that is just kind of intoxicating a little bit. Listen, Randy pitching is a whole different aura, but Randy it's not that he was a bad orator or anything. It was just that like he was never really one for a ton of words. You know, he was kind of an actions guy. You know, as much as I know. Again, I don't know any of these guys personally, but that's always kind of the vibe I've gotten.
That's a lot of respect because you like the players that they do walk the walk rather than talk the talk. Like actions speak louder than words, and that was what Randy Johnson was known for, was his demeanor, his intimidation factor, and he never really like gone into anyone's faces, with the exception of that Indians game where he got into it, I guess, with Kenny Lofton, which I do think the Mariners actually won that game, surprisingly.
They did. Came back in the 8th inning. Yep.
And then, yeah, the bullpen actually wasn't a total dumpster fire that day. But I think another thing I want to consider for Randy Johnson is I know that it's out of the Mariners' ridiculous Hall of Fame policy to give them to retire his number 51, but as much as I appreciate Ichiro's number being retired number 51, I do think that Randy Johnson should have got his. Yes, he didn't get Hall of Fame with the Mariners, but he was still a Hall of Famer, and the years that built up to his Hall of Fame reputation with the Arizona Diamondbacks, those don't happen without his years in Seattle. So I think the Mariners should also put his number 51 just as much as they put number 51 for Ichiro Suzuki. I mean, Ichiro respected the man because he did make a promise before the 2001 season that not only did he request to have number 51, which Randy Johnson, of course, said yes, he also said that he would not fail him and he would honor that number, and he sure did it in amazing fashion.
Yeah, 100%. And I've never been a big oh, this guy's jersey's number is retired. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's a number. But like, I'm with you. Something to have like Ichiro and Randy up there. Like, listen, the reason it's probably not is Randy's in the Hall of Fame as a Diamondback, not a Mariner. So that's, like you said, that's probably the reason why. But Randy is, I mean, for me, like, Randy's just as part of a Mariner legacy as anybody. Sometimes guys move on, sometimes they don't. That's part of it. That doesn't make them any less of a Mariner, in my opinion. And when the dust settles, we've talked about A-Rod several times. Like, and I get it. I get why fans might not be the biggest A-Rod fans, but I mean, I'm telling you guys, if you ever get a chance, me and Rooftop did it for a game in 95. We went back and watched it. Go on YouTube. There's some games from 98, 99, and 2000. I don't think people remember how good Alex Rodriguez was. In fact, and I could be wrong on this, all in 98, you had McGuire, Sosa, Griffey, Greg Vaughn, all the home run chases. I think A-Rod led the league in F-WAR that year, or B-WAR, one of the wars. Like, that's how darn good Alex Rodriguez was as a player.
It was a 10 WAR in 2000, and that was the league leading, and that was his career high. And he somehow finished second to third in MVP, and yet Jason Giambi got it. And if you guys want to know how big of an A-Rod fan I was and am, that explains it all. A Mariners A-Rod statue.
That thing's clean.
It is. Like, it's somehow never been opened, but yeah, I'm never gonna.
Yeah, don't open it now. Don't open it now.
No, never will. Maybe the value of it will go up once. Maybe the Mariners give him like a sweet homecoming. I mean, I'm still not going to sell it, but maybe it'll get more attention.
I think most people have kind of forgiven A-Rod. I could be wrong on that. I mean, one, you've got new generations of fans that didn't grow up in that era, and I get people that are frustrated. Like, I do understand the reasonings. I'm not saying there's no validation for it, but as the dust has settled, like, Alex Rodriguez was so good. I mean, like,
he had just as much impact as Ken Griffey Jr. did.
You could make a case he was better when he was here. Like, as
there
value goes, I mean, if you go by WAR and those numbers, you don't have to. A-Rod probably was a better player. I'm a bigger Griffey fan. I'm not saying that, like,
just say more valuable.
Yeah,
he had more value.
Thank you. There we go.
Because I guess infield players put up more value than outfield players, because infielders, they have to, no discredit to Griffey, of course, but building that, I played infield as a softballer. Building that grounder is a tough, what. Like, it's like, it will come right to you, and next thing you know, it's right through the field. So the stuff that A-Rod and all those infielders are able to do, Gotta give credit where credit is due. But again, no discredit to Griffey. I mean,
No.
he is one of the greats of all
Oh,
time.
yeah. Just shows how good A-Rod really was, that you could make that case. Like I said, 98, Sosa, McGuire, Greg Vaughn, Griffey, all those guys that were chasing the home run. And you probably, and I don't have all the numbers in front of me, I bet if you used more modern day statistics than they had back then, I bet you could make a strong case A-Rod was still the best player in baseball.
He absolutely was, and definitely was. And we can go on and on about it, but man, we got to get to the current events, which is about the injuries. There's been some strange injury bugs happening with the Mariners already in spring training. First, it started with Jackson Kowar, where as of March 2nd, 2025, he's on a 60-day IL, which I would assume he's probably out for the season again. He's still going through that Tommy John surgery recovery. So unfortunately, that Jared Kelnick trade is not aging well at all. The only thing it really did was just get Mitch Garver a contract for the Mariners. That's literally the only thing it accomplished out of that trade, unfortunately. We definitely want to see Jackson Kowar back and healthy, because last season in that spring training, he did show some upside. He does have good velocity on his fastball. It's just that he just couldn't stay healthy. So hopefully things can change for the better for Jackson Kowar. But then Troy Taylor may not even start the season on time because he has a right lat strain. Sounds like that's more of a precautionary thing, but still it's something to look at. Matt Brash is making progress, and his velocity from what I saw was like at 93. I think that's what I saw. So clearly he's just not there yet. And I don't even know if he's going to top 100 anytime soon because of his recovery with that Tommy John. But the status says he began throwing live batting practice on March 12th, which was as of yesterday. Pretty encouraging, but no swing from the hitters. So they're really taking their time on Matt Brash. He had underwent the surgery last May. He could return right around the 12-month mark. So they're still saying late April to early May. I think I'm still going to go with Dan Wilson. I think he said middle of the season. So I think that's going to be the more accurate ETA. And then George Kirby, another crushing news where he has a right shoulder inflammation, will begin the season on the IL. They're saying, I think like maybe half of April, they're saying, and the status says recently he received a biologic shot and should be able to start during strength exercise in 3 to 4 days from the day of March 7th. I think that's what it was. Shut down from throwing on March 7th through an MRI exam. Showed no structural damage. So there's no structural damage, but it seems like they're taking their time, which for that, I would think that the fifth starter at that point is going to be Emerson Hancock. I looked up Logan Evans, didn't see much from him, and knowing that the experience that Emerson Hancock has and that he's a big body himself, I would think that he is going to be the fifth starter. And your thoughts on any of these big injuries? These are very significant losses.
Yeah, Kowar, it's hard to say too much because we haven't even seen him pitch for the Mariners. So it's hard to even consider that like a huge loss at this point, just because we don't even know what he looks like as a Mariner. Troy Taylor sounds like something with the lat injury that, he should be back fairly soon. I'm not too worried about that. It's unfortunate, but sounds like he's making progress. Brash, yeah, like you said, I think 93 to 95 or something's what Divish was reporting. So making progress. I don't know about half the year, but I am more like, I don't think it's just going to be like late April either. Like, we talk about all the time. I've talked about on my podcast, like these injuries come up and it's like, okay, yeah, he'll be back by late April. Well, we're going to push it back a week because of this. Then the rehab assignment gets slowed down. So I would probably say like, realistically for Brash, May is when I'd start considering like, okay, we could see him back. I don't know that for certain. So I don't know about middle of the year. That might be a little far, I feel like, but I don't think it's crazy either, right? Like we know how these things go and things get pushed back. And that's my concern with Kirby too. Now, no structural damage. That's a huge plus, but it's just, the shoulder's still a little sore. So, okay, it's early in the year. We're going to wait another week. Okay. Well, now it's late April. Okay. Well, now he's definitely got to have a rehab assignment because it's early May. well, we're going to take it easy on the rehab assignment because of the shoulder. So all of a sudden it's like, it's just, I guess all I'm trying to say, it's amazing how quickly mid-April can become late May. You know what I mean? And same with Brash. Like, I'm not trying to be negative. Maybe they're all back by April, but these things just do linger. And, a couple weeks becomes 13, 14 games really quickly.
Sometimes I do wonder if Dan Wilson maybe he'll still do that Scott Service approach where even if the guy's pitching a borderline no-hitter, is he going to do that again where he's going to pull someone just because out of load management? But the thing is, it's the way I see it though, like with that we've seen George Kirby getting some injury problems, and last year we dealt with Brian Wu for the last 2 years. It makes me wonder, like, as much as these load management's a thing, especially, and it's not just a Scott Service thing, it's a baseball thing. It's really about how these pitchers do it now. I still stand that I think Scott Service took his pitching management just a little bit too far because he did pull guys when they were pitching like a borderline no-hitter game. Now, if he got blown up, if these pitchers got blown up, like gave up already at least 2 runs, then yeah, of course. Yeah, sure. The day's just not there. But when you're throwing shutout innings, I think you should still let the starters pitch. But the thing is, the unfortunate thing is, with knowing how hard these pitchers throw these days, because they throw much harder than they did back in the 90s, the steroid era. They throw much harder than they did back then. So it's one of those things, like, unfortunately, those injuries they're just nearly impossible to avoid. But fortunately, Mariners, I guess, they are the best team in baseball in handling the health of their starters. But unfortunately, it has also come at a cost of our bullpen pitchers because they pitch more. And I know, even strangely, the stats say that they still don't pitch that much. But with the relief pitchers, we've seen more injuries out of them. So it makes me wonder, not only is Dan Wilson going to wonder how he's going to manage the starters, but how will he manage the bullpen? But to be fair, bullpen pitchers tend to throw harder too because they throw a lot more gas and they have to throw a lot more pitches in the bullpen. So I don't know what to say. I'm unfortunately not the expert there. And a lot of fans called me out on it going, "You're not the expert. What do you know better? It was the right decision, even though we lost."
Yeah, it's tough. Like you said, and bullpen's more max effort too. I think Dan will still have some of that. Like you made a great point. Like it's really just how baseball's going, especially in April. You see teams pulling guys at 65, 75 pitches on opening day. Teams just don't push it, the same way it used to be, where we just talked about that Randy Johnson game in April. He probably threw 125 pitches on April 10th, somewhere in that range, maybe even 130. Those days are just gone. You're never going to see that, especially not on April 10th. So do I think you're still going to see the load management? Yeah, I think that's an organizational philosophy. I think it's a baseball philosophy now. You're just going to see it. I do think Dan's going to be a little bit more of a gut feeling guy. I think Scott was very much like, you bring it up all the time, Robbie Ray versus Yordan Alvarez. Some of the numbers did support it being a decent decision. I'm still baffled why Robbie Ray was throwing 92 and not 99 out of a bullpen, but that's a whole nother story. I think Dan's going to be more of a gut feel type guy, which, listen, both have pros and cons, right? Like sometimes the numbers will tell you stuff you don't know. You need to go with what the numbers say. But I think Scott we saw it in that kind of second half of the year, just no matter what button he pushed, it did not work. Even if we agreed with it, it didn't work. And the numbers can back it up. But if it doesn't work, you're not winning baseball games. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, you're supposed to win. So I think you'll still see some of it. It's just like I said, it's an organizational philosophy that they have. Dan's not going to buck that, all. But I do think you're going to see pitchers go a little bit further. And I do think it's going to be more of a gut feel type situation versus maybe some of the numbers. And, we'll see. I'm excited to see what Dan's got in store.
I am too, which is why I can understand why they didn't really go for another manager, because I guess they did see potential in him. And about Randy Johnson, you were close on the 125. He pitched 132 pitches on April 10th, 1998. So yeah, we don't even see 100 pitches anymore. Like when someone pitches 100 pitches, it's like, holy crap.
Yeah, and that's like, oh my gosh, like the pen better be ready to go. So it's just changed. Like you said, it's even with Scott, like it's a baseball thing now. You can watch any team, and most of them there's some teams again, they're not all exactly maybe as cautious as like Scott was, but for the most part, baseball in general, this is just, and bullpens are better. Hey, Randy probably should have thrown 150 pitches on that April 10th because look what happened in the ninth inning. So, bullpens are better now too. You've got, back then, I think maybe you were lucky if you had one arm that was a lights out guy. The rest were just kind of dudes that could cover innings. Now, I mean, look at the Mariners. Hypothetically, Munoz, Brash if he's healthy, Gregory Santos with healthy. Troy Taylor would have been like a superhuman in 1998. And now he's just yeah, he's a good guy. Like, so bullpens today are also just way more lights out. And I think that contributes to it as well. But to your point too, that's why I think you see more bullpen injuries because those guys are throwing harder and more max effort. So there's always a give and take to it all.
Yeah. And before we get over to the Mitch Garver situation and strangely Rick Riz, like, I will admit that when I first started this channel, I was like, oh, Scott Service, which I will still say I was right about 80% of the time. And that's just conservative numbers. But I did more research. Like I saw videos of like why pitchers are getting injured more. So I could understand why it's such a thing. And it's more of a baseball thing than a Mariners thing. Because if it really was a Mariners thing, then it would get even more attention than it would have been necessary. But it's more like everyone's doing it. It's just about how managers do it. So it really just shows how much we have grown as baseball fans, not only just watching the game as fans, but we're also like looking at the other facts and all the clues and like what's going on. Like I've had friends tell me like, hey, what do you think of this? I'm able to just answer it like right off the bat. Like if it was 2 years ago, I'd be like, let me get back to you on that. I don't know yet. But now it's like, I have a gut feeling.
Yeah, no, exactly. With Scott, I mean, I don't want to rehash Scott stuff or, personally, but like, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still to your point, like bottom line is whether it's the right thing to do or not. It didn't work with Scott, right? It wasn't working anymore. Whatever buttons he was pushing was not getting the results that were needed, regardless of what someone thinks of load management for pitchers or not. So, but yeah, it's really just kind of baseball's going that way. It's like roughing the passer in football. Like there's ridiculous calls, but just it's kind of the way the game's evolved a little bit. So, but I do miss the days. I don't know. I don't want to rehash all of it, but it's like, I mean, Randy pitched a long career. He's thrown 132 pitches in April. He was fine. Like I do wonder sometimes. Like I'm all for avoiding injuries and trying to make the game where pitchers stay healthy. I'm not trying to say like you go out there and punch the guy for not throwing 120 pitches. But I do sometimes wonder a little bit. I do miss those days of that guy that has no energy left, but he's still on the mound fighting and going 8-9 innings. It is kind of a lost art that I miss about baseball.
I feel like it could be done in a separate video. It could go on for
it'd be
hours and hours.
Yeah.
But now back to now we're going to Mitch Garver where he got hit by the pitcher and he was absolutely on fire before that happened. And there was a little scare, had to get x-rays, but it looks like he's okay. So he's going to come back and it looks like he'll be ready to go still for opening day. No reports if he's going to miss time, which as much as Mitch Garver was heavily criticized last season, including the death threats, and I will still believe that most of those guys were just bots and not even Mariners fans. I actually believe that they were just people. They were just trollings. They were just closet other fans and just sabotaging our fan base. But bottom line, it still happened. I still think he should have just ignored it. But I know people feel and they react differently, but I really hope he does have a fantastic season. Like I think my best case scenario for him is he's 2023 Tom Murphy. If we can get that kind of production, I will more than take it. But hopefully that spring training performance that he is having does. Not saying now, do I expect to be a copy and paste from spring training to Major League Baseball? Of course not. That's not going to, I don't see that happening. But if he could at least relieve the stress out of Cal Raleigh, it would pay huge dividends because all the effort that Cal Raleigh's doing, there's just got to be a time where does he suffer some kind of injury that may be long term, because he's really been a trooper, and we just need someone with that can provide that kind of depth. So he doesn't have to do so much, and that way Mitch Garver, especially with him healthy, and we need him to be, because we did sign him to that huge, not saying a huge contract, but at least to the Mariners standards was a huge contract, but definitely need him to perform so he could hopefully bring him back to the days when he was in Texas. And there is that theory that he does better in the odd years anyway. So glad to hear that Mitch Garver is okay. And then strangely, Rick Riz got hit by a foul ball. And yes, Rick Riz, longtime Mariners play-by-play alongside with Dave Niehaus with his goodbye baseball. Luckily, he is okay too. So he came back the next day, but there was that little scare of like, man, everyone's getting hurt. Now it's the guys on the broadcast booth. And now we might as well say next thing it's the ground crew. It's going to be the ball girls, the ball boys, the fans, the Mariners content creators getting hit by foul balls. Hey, we could be next on Saturday if we're not careful.
It would be good content for us, though. So as long as we survive.
Yeah, maybe I'll bring my GoPro and I'll get a video of myself trying to catch a ball. Maybe it doesn't work out. So we'll see. I mean, actually, I did get hit by a softball in a batting cage, because normally people would use the net, but I took the challenge and didn't use the net because I need to practice my reflexes as a softball pitcher. I almost caught it. First, it bounced off the glove. Then it hit my arm. And then it hit my jaw. But luckily, I was okay. So I guess you can say slight scares are already happening to Mariners content creators.
It's already begun. But yeah, that was wild with Garver getting hurt. And then it's like 20 minutes later, it's like, oh, Rick Riz just took a foul ball off the head. I guess it wasn't just like it bounced and kind of hit him. They had the medical staff up there. So, thank God, Riz is okay. That's obviously the most scary anytime a head injury. Obviously, I want Mitch Garver to be okay. It sounds like he is, because we need Mitch Garver, regardless of what you think of Mitch Garver, not you personally, but anybody watching this. Like, they do need Mitch Garver this season. He's their primary backup catcher, and he did hit lefties extremely well last year. So even if that's all you get out of Mitch Garver, that's still, at least it's better than Blake Hunt or whatever else option you're going to have. So good to see Garver's okay. And yeah, just, thank goodness Rick Riz is okay. That would have been just awful had something serious happened from that. So Rick's the trooper. Talk about people that have, we talk about Mariner stories, man. Rick's seen and heard it all. So that's a guy we got to keep around. It's already tough enough having lost Dave Niehaus. We need Rick. We need the Rizzer. So glad to see he's doing okay.
We need to hear goodbye baseball and I remember Rick Riz on TV was like the most beautiful thing as a Mariners fan I saw. Like, yeah, people, don't get me wrong, Dave was also great. He was really good at starting the games. I mean, he's a legend. But for some reason, Rick Riz related to me more because he had that high pace. He was high energy. Like, he made the game really intense. Like, especially when it's a close game. Like, he was really into it, could connect with the fans. And if you really want to know how Rick Riz sounded on TV, go watch those games on YouTube from like the years of 98 to like 2001. Like, he was really into it. So another reason why we still need Rick Riz around. Granted, he's not on TV anymore and he still doesn't get TV because he's mostly on the radio, but he's great for radio if you're having a drive home from work or drive anywhere. So let's keep supporting Rick Riz and let's keep hoping that he does keep recovering well, and he did. But let's hope none of these players get hurt, and now commentators and us content creators.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. Riz is one of the greats. I've got a long road trip coming up here in a few weeks. I'm going to be doing a drive, and it'll be during baseball season. So I'm gonna have my Rick Riz going on the radio. So I wish he was still on TV occasionally. I'd love to, because I watch the games, so I don't hear Rick as much anymore. But every now and then, driving home, I'm late for a game. If I'm not listening to Rooftops play-by-play, I'm going with Rick Riz. So I got two good options for me on the drive home.
And Rick Riz is one of my bigger competitions, along with the Northwest Sports Fanatics.
So yeah, 3 great options. There we go.
There we go. And now we are going to go into, I'm going to say, let's do the prospects. So Mariners prospects, much of them have actually been playing very well throughout the spring training. The ones that stand out the most, we got Blake Hunt, who's batting an amazing 545. Now, will he hit 545 in Major League Baseball? No,
Yes.
because if he did, then Ted Williams would be like, am I a joke to you? Then we got Lazaro Montez, who's been playing very well, and he's really kept his strikeouts down because he was an easy strikeout guy. Like when I saw him in the minor leagues, he was swinging and hacking like he was trying to kill the thing. But good to see him doing pretty well. Colt Emerson is not doing well, but he did hit a home run and an extra base. But it's still good to see him get the taste of Major League Baseball. He's not going to get the call up this year. I know he won't, but you'll see him in A+ and maybe AA. So maybe next year will be his ETA. And Harry Ford is playing very well. Batting 571. But yes, as much as he's in AA, which means when you're in AA and you're a player of that caliber, you can go into Major League Baseball real soon. But usually catchers take a much longer time to get developed. And it must be a combination of not only the hitting, but also catching to be able to throw the ball to second base when someone's stealing, be able to communicate and mature and be a leader of like leading your pitchers into victory, just like Dan Wilson did before and Cal Raleigh does. So I mean, yeah, I don't expect Harry Ford. He's still a young guy. I don't even know if this guy can even drink yet. I mean, let me check his age really quick on Harry Ford. He's 22, so he
22.
just got into that legal age of drinking. So, and Cal Raleigh was around like 24 to 25 when he got his major league debut. So I still think Harry Ford is a ways to go. Ryan Bliss is batting 350, and I would think that he's in a good position to get into that starting role for second base because we definitely need some spark in that infield. Felnine Celestine, yeah, he's only played like a game or few, but he's showing that he can hit the ball. He's got talent. The guy just has to be healthy. And other prospects that there's Tyler Locklear, but he hasn't really done much at all. But those are the ones that really stick out the most. And also, I guess might as well throw in Ben Williamson. He's batting 429. Best case scenario, I heard if he does get called up, he could be basically Josh Rojas, but with slightly better defense and maybe a slightly better bat, but I wouldn't count on it, unfortunately. But I do think that they should give him a shot at some point. And then we got Cole Young, only batting 167, played in 12 games. So based on that performance, as much as we were all hyping, we were all hoping that he would get the opening day start. But when you're batting 167 in spring training, especially against some guys that may not even see Major League Baseball for that season yet, it would be very difficult to have 167 be convincing enough for him to make the Major League roster for opening day. As much as we need that talent, I just don't see a guy batting 167 make it to the majors on opening day.
Yeah, so a lot of list of names there. Yeah, start with Cole Young. I think there was a shot if he really killed it this spring and just kind of like Julio in 22. Yeah, when he just you couldn't keep him off the roster. You just couldn't do it. I thought maybe there was a shot we could see that from Cole Young this spring where he just does so much where you're like, we can't keep him off the roster. That hasn't happened. He won't make it. Not overall, just out of spring training is what I'm referring to. We will see Cole Young at some point this year. Even though Colt Emerson's numbers aren't great, I've been impressed. Some of the exit velos have been really impressive. So he's hitting the ball hard at times. I love Colt Emerson. I think he's going to be a stud. So I've seen some impressive things. I'm with you on Laz Montez. Just cutting back on the strikeouts, and a guy that I thought was kind of an all or nothing prospect, I'm starting to like a little bit more as a more all around player. I'm starting to see some signs that maybe it's not just a, Adam Dunn type player. You know what I mean? More, not that, listen, if you have an Adam Dunn career, that'd be fantastic. But there's a little bit more to Laz Montez than that. I like Ben Williamson. I think that's someone that keep an eye on for this year as well. I know some of the knock has been lack of power, but I do think there's some gap power there. You don't always have to put the ball over the fence to have power, as long as you're not just, if you're going to be a singles guy, unless you're an Ichiro, it can hit or miss. But I think Williamson has some gap power, tremendous glove at third. I don't think he's going to make it out of the gate, but like definitely someone to keep an eye on for this year. And then who else? Celestine, I haven't followed too much. I mean, he's still a little ways away. Ford's such a tough one for me. I know there's some guys that love him, some guys that don't. I clarify before I always get into prospects. I am not the guy to talk to if you're looking for prospect breakdown. It's not my thing. So don't hold me to any of this. But like, I know Ford's kind of polarizing for some people. Some people love him. Some people are kind of down on him. He's in a tough spot, with Cal Raleigh here. For the foreseeable future, how's Ford going to break in as a catcher? I'm never a big like, oh, these guys are blocked. I always hated that because it's like, dude, if you're good, man, you'll break through. But when it's catcher, like, and Cal Raleigh's your catcher, you are kind of blocked. So maybe Ford can play some outfield. I don't know. I know they were experimenting with that at one point. I don't know if they kept up with that. And then obviously, some of these guys are potential trade chips also.
They did. They actually did experiment Harry Ford, and he actually committed a few errors. So I think they were like, okay, nope, never mind. Let's not make that happen. Because Couch GM, credit to him, he actually theorized that. And Couch GM, if I'm wrong, let me know. He was believing that maybe the Mariners were using him as a possible trade piece. So that's why they experimented him on outfield to see the value. But because he committed a few errors, and let me double check that because fact checking is really a thing, but even in baseball.
It may not have been errors, but it may have just been misplays. Like if a guy trips and falls and the ball falls in, it's not an error. Some of those Raul Ibanez plays weren't errors, but they were still errors.
He had 3 errors as an outfield. He played in 8 games. So
that's hard to do. Like
that's really hard to do. But yeah, thanks for reminding me about Raul Ibanez. Remember when in 2013, when he tried to throw the ball, it literally went to center field all the way from left field. That was painful to watch. And that wasn't just Raul Ibanez in his prime years. That was 41-year-old Raul Ibanez playing left field. And now we look back and go, how did Eric Wedge let that happen? I don't know.
Jack Zarensick and company, but it's so Ford's kind of probably the most not most polarizing, but probably the most obvious you would think trade bait. But again, I don't know, but it's been, I think, a pretty impressive spring for the kids. It's been fun to watch, and it's always fun to see them get some at bats. I'm disappointed I'm not going to be able to maybe see a lot of them here in the next couple of weeks, but no, some good signs and some good signs for the future.
Well, there's the next couple of days, so maybe we'll be able to see who is playing during that time. And tomorrow I'll also be covering the spring breakout game, as long as it doesn't rain out, where all the prospects are going to play. So I think that will actually be worth watching. It'll be available on RoofTopSports if anyone was willing to fork up the money like I was.
So that's what that is. Okay. I saw people talking about that. I was like, what is the spring breakout game? I didn't know they let all the prospects play.
That's all when the kids play.
Cool. I like that. That's cool they do that.
Be a great opportunity. And now we should go into bold predictions, where we come up with one bold prediction for the team throughout the entire season, not this time for spring training, but for the season. And I'll go first. I'm going to say Dan Wilson will win Manager of the Year because he showed his potential as a manager in the late season. Like, look what happened to Julio, Victor Robles, Luke Raley, Randy Arozarena a little bit. And the offense itself actually played at least not terrible, with considering what Dan Wilson had to work with, and they still almost made the playoffs. But yeah, I think with the different kind of vibe that he brings to the team, because it looks like everyone responds to him very well. Julio really likes the guy. Like, it seems like, and I remember they said that people are responding well to Scott Service. I think they actually respond better to Dan Wilson because I believe he knows the game better. He actually played in a very prominent role with the Mariners. He was the Mariners catcher from 2004 to 2005. So he had long history of, he dealt with everything. He handled Randy Johnson. He helped Jamie Moyer. He dealt with the worst bullpen in baseball, and he still found a way to mentally stay positive throughout that entire time, working with that bullpen of Heathcliff Slocum, Mike Timlin, Paul Spoljaric, the great Bobby Ayala, and he was able to lead through that. So if he was able to at least kind of survive through that, I believe that he has a potential to be manager of the year if he, and that's if he could, but that's the thing. He has to be able to lead this team. Now, could it be a disaster? Yeah, unfortunately, but we never know. But I think the upside is there for Dan Wilson to be a great manager. And especially, and this is the season for him to do it because Mariners didn't really do much to upgrade their hitting personnel. So now it's up to it's up to Dan Wilson, Edgar Martinez, Kevin Seitzer to really get that offense back into shape. And that's what the Mariners are banking on. They're banking on bounce back seasons from J.P. Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena. Anyone else Jorge Polanco. They are banking Mitch Garver. And if at least, I would say at least 2 or 3 of them, more like, I would like to say 3, if half of them could at least get to their bounce back form, then I do think Dan Wilson should be a candidate because you would think that if the Mariners bullpen and the starting rotation holds it together, and if your offense is at least top 15, they say, you should be able to get a shoot in for the playoffs, you would think, but that's my bold prediction is Dan Wilson and his leadership carrying from 2024 to 2025. That should get him manager of the year if they make the playoffs, of course.
I like that. That's a great bold prediction. So, and like you said, it's the right year for it to happen because the expectations are a little lower. Like if the Mariners go to the ALCS this year and then do it next year, he's not going to win it, because they were expected to do that. So I like that prediction a lot. I mean, there's a few like little ones. Like I think Ryan Bliss is going to win the second base job. I forgot to talk about Bliss and the prospect thing we were talking about, but really encouraging spring for him. I think Mitch Garver actually does bounce back. Of all those bounce back guys, I think Garver is the most likely to kind of have a big season. But for bold, I'm going to go with Brian Wu wins the Cy Young. I think when I just stay healthy, right? Like stay healthy for the season, even if he has to miss a couple starts, like that happens. But I'm talking like 30 to 32 starts. The thing with Wu that was really neat is towards the end of the year, second half, he was going deep into the games. He wasn't just a 4 or 5 innings lights out guy. And okay, we got to take him out because the injury concerns or Scott load managing or whatever it was. We saw him going 6, 7, I think even 8. I could be wrong on that, but I think even 8 or into the 8th inning at least for a game. I think it was the Padres. He had that perfecto or no hitter going for a while. I mean, watching Brian Wu, he's got the George Kirby control, and I love George Kirby, so I don't want to knock him at all. But sometimes Kirby has a tendency to be so in the strike zone that he just gets hit around, right? Like he has these random blow-up starts where it's like 10 earned runs in 2 2/3, kind of. And George Kirby's fantastic. This is not a knock on him. But Brian Wu has that control with, I think, even better stuff. I mean, did Brian Wu get knocked around once last year? I think he had one start in LA where he got beat up a little bit by the Angels because Lord knows the Angels were our kryptonite. But like, other than that, I don't recall a start where Brian Wu was not like good at all. And I think he can keep going to those 6, 7 innings in the games with his ability to get strikeouts and avoid walks and the low ERA. I think he could be the best, and it's bold. It's bold predictions, right? So for everybody going, it's a bold prediction for a reason. Brian Wu wins the Cy Young.
He gave up 7 runs. That was his worst performance. It was against the Yankees on September 17th, but that's when I think that week when the Mariners just completely took a crap that entire week. I don't think that was the same game, but that was also the same series when Randy Arozarena caused a double play by throwing his bat.
That was the series where Julio got picked off too at third base in extra innings.
And that was off the Randy Arozarena throwing the bat. And to make it more bizarre, I was out of the country. So when I saw it on Twitter just blowing up, I was literally just laughing because at that point the season just seemed over. So
I
Yeah,
don't
very
remember that
bizarre.
Woo start. I don't remember that Woo start at all, to be perfectly honest. I'm obviously it happened, but yeah, I mean, okay, he probably, and I think he did have one in LA where it was like 5 innings, 6 earned runs or something. Everybody has them, right? Like every pitcher is going to have a start or two. But
It
for
was
Woo,
2
I think
runs against LA Dodgers, and
oh,
Angels, his worst was 4.
okay, there we go. I think it may have been the Angels one. I think he had a 4-0 lead and gave up the 4. So it's not even that bad. I think it just stuck with me because we blew a lead to the Angels again. So I mean, yeah, I love Brian Wu. Stay healthy. Please stay healthy.
Stay healthy, please do. And now this is going to be the fun part. It's going to be starting lineup predictions. So the 26-man roster predictions. And this one, I'll have to turn off my SeatGeek thing. So if you want your $20 off, this is your last chance. Rooftop Sports, $20 off, or all over the description of this video. And now let's get into this part of the video where I get to show the 26-man roster. And here it is. And you know what? I'll have you go first, and let's see if it's seen properly. There it is. Hopefully everyone can see it. I laid that out for you. So I have you with starting rotation, bullpen. I'm giving you about 7.
That's fine.
2
Yeah.
catchers, infielders, outfielders, and your designated hitter. And this is out of this entire list. And maybe I'll try to make it bigger, see if that makes a difference.
There we go. I can see
yeah, there
that.
we go. Yeah, that's great. All right, let's go with starters. Who is your number 1 starter?
Me personally, or my prediction for who will be the number 1?
Let's do
or
prediction.
who would I think they give it to Castillo as a veteran nod. So I'm going to go Castillo.
And then who's your number 2 starter?
Logan Gilbert.
Number 3.
And this is not, we know Kirby's on the IL, right?
So so I'll put Kirby over here.
Okay. Number 3 would then be Bryce Miller. Bryce Miller could have been a bold Cy Young prediction too. Honestly.
He could have, like any of these guys could have.
I was going to say even Castillo bouncing back and doing it isn't the craziest thing. Brian Wu, number 4.
And now the number 5. Who wins that one?
I think just because they're not going to, if Kirby was out for a while, I'd say maybe Logan Evans, but with, I think them hoping short-term, I think it's just going to be Emerson Hancock.
Yeah. Leverage the time for Logan Evans to get more work done in the minors. Nothing wrong with that.
Agreed. All right. Bullpen.
Your closer.
Munoz.
Got to put in Munoz.
Yep. Obviously.
I'm going to take Troy Taylor out.
Yeah. Are we sure he's beginning on the IL? Is that
they said that he's going to miss. They say he's likely to miss. So I'm going to go with that. Let me see what they say.
Yeah, no,
it says
fine.
It says TBD. So
we'll assume for now that he'll miss at least a couple weeks or something. Colin Snyder.
He was a beast last year.
Yeah. Santos looks like he's been healthy, right? So Santos.
And let me put all the pitchers all together to make it easier.
Oh, you're good. Bizzardo.
Bizzardo.
He was good last year. He had a couple really bad outings, but if you go look at some of the numbers, take away that horrible Texas outing, he was actually he was one of those guys like, we kind of forgot about Woo's bad start because we had given up a little bit. Bizzardo was lights out in September. But anyways, Trent Thornton.
That's the game I fell asleep when I was doing it. I literally fell asleep on that one when I was doing the live show.
We'll see. Bizzardo woke you up. He was doing you a favor. Gabe Spire.
Just like Jerry DePoto.
Right? Oh, man. Last spot. Oh, man. It comes down to can they carry 8 or is it 7 normally what they carry?
The rule of thumb is 7 to 8. I mean, you can add a bullpen, but then you have to remove an infielder and an outfielder.
I may do that. For right now, let's put Seth Martinez as the last one. Just because I think they're going to like that he can kind of go multiple innings. That's kind of what he did in Houston. And I think they've needed a guy like that can kind of just go 2 innings for you. So I'm going to go with Martinez as the last one. Catchers.
You have one. You have one more. If you're going to add one more,
I'm not sure. Can I come back to it? I'm not sure. I'll look at the infielders. Okay.
It's going to be between Klein, Casey,
Sauce. Yeah.
and Vargas.
Yeah.
Now
If one more,
catchers.
Cal,
I
obviously.
mean, yeah. Who
I
else,
think Cal
right?
makes it. Yeah. I think
Semi
that one's pretty
Savala,
obvious.
let's bring him
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Where is he? And Miguel Olivo. And then I'll go, does Garver qualify as a catcher? Is he under DH or does it matter?
I'm on my pick. I qualified him as a backup catcher.
Okay. I'm going to put him as catcher because it looks like the hand's
Now
going to be okay.
the infield. You have
Okay.
5
So
choices if you're adding a bullpen pitcher.
JP.
Yeah, who else?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Dylan Moore will make it.
I'm gonna put him like on the bottom.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm just going through the names. I apologize. Polanco.
As your third baseman, and that's still painful. My friend McLovin, when he was there, he told me that Polanco did not look good at third base.
Yeah, great. They can't wait. Oh man. Where's Ray? Well, does Luke Rayleigh, is he under outfielders?
He's technically outfielder.
Okay. Solano, where's he?
Guy from Colombia.
Solano. Sorry, I didn't see him. And I guess I'll go with Bliss.
Yeah. I mean, I was hoping Locklear would get a spot, but he does not look good for spring training at all. Leo Rivas, he's not quad A player at best. Miles Mastrobroni, he's got the funny name, but I don't think that's enough to get him on the major league roster, unfortunately.
Yeah, and if Bliss starts at second, you don't really need Rivas because Dylan Moore can play everywhere. If Dylan Moore was at second, then I'd put Rivas on there because Rivas kind of becomes your super utility guy. Outfielders, that Julio guy I think makes it.
Who's Julio? Like,
Never heard of him.
Where's he from? Dominican Republic? I don't know.
Canada. Randy makes it.
Yeah, with his nice throwing away the bat, steps back on when the guy's about to pitch, strike.
That's right. Victor Robles and Luke. Rayleigh, I kind of consider, I think, but he hasn't played a lot of first out. He's been playing more outfield in the spring. So Luke Rayleigh, and then Haniger, I guess, is the I guess Haniger is the DH.
He is he was a 260 hitter as a DH. So there is one little spark of hope because I remember last year I was like, oh, he's healthy every 3 years. This one, I'm just hoping that he's riding that 260 batting average into DH. But you know what? If he hits 260 as a DH, I will more than take it. He doesn't even have to hit home runs to make me happy. He just has to hit gappers or drop singles.
Same. And I think I'm missing one more because I think I left a reliever empty. What's Austin Shenton been doing this spring? How are his, sorry, not to like make you look up stuff, but
you know what this is? Hey, it's part of the podcasting, right?
Right.
Austin Shenton.
Not that I put a ton of stock in the spring numbers, but just curious what he's been doing.
He's projected first baseman. He's a 227 hitter.
Hasn't been great in spring.
No,
because I'm trying to think, do they carry another infielder? Because Haniger is so useless on this one. I'm sorry, Mitch, if you watch this. I love you. You're one of my favorite Mariners. I have no idea how you get him into this roster. Because, man, I want to keep like a Leo Rivas or a Shenton or a Will Klein in the bullpen because I think there's a lot of value there. But unless Haniger something happens,
I'll go with 15. He has a huge contract, so that's why he can't.
I mean, just release him. You already got to pay him anyways. Like, he's more valuable not on this team. I'm sorry. Like, there is nothing he does. I'd rather have Rowdy Tellez make this team. Left-handed, at least could pinch hit in the late game situations. Mitch Haniger does zero. And again, sorry, Mitch, if you're watching this, I love you. Congratulations if you're an hour into Rooftop and I's podcast. I appreciate you watching all this way. But there's just nothing he does that deserves. He's not good on the base paths. He's not a good defender, and he's not a good hitter. Not Rowdy Tellez isn't either, but he can at least hit. He's a lefty in T-Mobile.
He's slightly younger.
Yeah, like at least there's something there. I'd rather carry Miles Mastrobroni. He can probably pinch run for you in the late innings. Like, he's not good, but I'd rather keep any one of those guys. Give me another, because let's see, hold on. Because I'm going to have Rayleigh at first. Haniger is going to play some outfield. So I think you have enough infielders there with Dylan Moore. I will go with Will Klein making the bullpen as the last guy.
Woo! No love for the sauce. No Twitch
He's got an
boy?
option. I think he has an option left. And if Spire's looked good, at least from what I've heard, I think this spring, he's been hitting 96, 97. I think Spire's the better lefty. And I don't think you need two. I like Sauce, but he's got an option that Bizzardo doesn't have and that Spire doesn't have. So I don't think he beats those guys out right away. I don't know though, but Sauce is also kind of a legend. So, and I think Klein's a little more intriguing, but I don't know that. And Seth Martinez might not even make it. I don't know. I just think they'll like that he can go multiple innings. And I think that gives some value, especially with Kirby being out and Hancock starting. What they can kind of do is Hancock go 4 innings and then Seth Martinez for a couple on his starts. So that would be my, prediction.
We'll have some bullpen days on that. But yeah. I think we're almost, mine's going to look just a little bit different because I put more infielders in than the bullpen, because I think the bullpen depth, in my opinion, was enough for it. But I can see why you put in more bullpen pitchers to withstand. Maybe I mean, it also would with your way of doing it. It would withstand possibly any more injuries, which we hope we don't have, because the bullpen can't. The bullpen just can't get injured enough.
For real.
Now here's mine, and I'm gotta make sure it's showing. Yep, that is. So the starters, I did Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, Luis Castillo, Brian Wu, and Emerson Hancock. So we were about the same, just the ordering was just different. Yeah, Bryce Miller, number 2. I know that I went pretty bold on that one.
I like that. You honestly, outside of Hancock, you could give Brian Wu the ball opening day, and I would not argue with you.
I don't think any of us would. Bullpen, we got Andres Munoz, closer, obviously. Gregory Santos, Colin Snyder, Gabe Spire, Taylor Saucedo. I spelled his name wrong, or unless that actually is spelled as Taylor Saucedo.
I think it is. Is it A or O, or is it? I don't know.
Let me check, because I did copy and. Oh, it is. It's actually ER.
Wow. Okay.
Didn't know that. Brent
Nice
Thornton
job.
and Edward Bizzardo. Those are my guys. Yeah, I left Klein, Casey, Seth Martinez, Brash as IL, Troy Taylor IL. Carlos Vargas just has no consistency from what I've seen in minors.
Yeah.
Catchers, we got Cal Raleigh, Mitch Garver, because who else? I don't know, Blake Hunt, Harry Ford. Infielder. This one I did it because I think infield needs the depth, because their infield is just bleeding to death unless they all bounce back. Donovan Solano, I think, will be the first baseman. Ryan Bliss, your second baseman. Don't like his defense, though. JP Crawford needs a bounce back. Jorge Polanco desperately needs a bounce back and to somehow learn how to play third base within a couple weeks. Dylan Moore and Miles Mastrobroni, because of the need for utility depth. But the thing is, can he perform at that major league level? Because he hasn't yet. But they are taking a shot on him, because any other options would have been Leo Rivas, Austin Shenton, and Ty Locklear. But Leo Rivas does have a case for the 26 guy, so we'll see. Outfield, you're obvious. Randy Rosarena, Julio Rodriguez, Victor Robles, Luke Raley. And painfully, Mitch Haniger as the DH, because he doesn't really have options. He just doesn't, because he's an older guy. He has a huge contract. So I mean, we all love Mitch as much as we can. Like, we've defended him to death. The thing is, his time is up, and we were hoping he would take the honorable action of not taking that contract. But for someone that is getting close to retirement, yeah, of course he's thinking about his last parts of his later half of his life. So of course you have to take the $15 million. Actually, if he didn't take the $15 million, he would have been criticized even more than him taking it, because it's like, no, you take the $15 million because you worked hard for it. You negotiated for that contract.
Yeah, he's earned the money. I have zero issue with him taking it. He did the right thing. And I would say one thing too at the roster. I think there's always the chance in the last week or two, there's a waiver claim. There's somebody that's released or something that they pick up. So I wouldn't be shocked. Nothing major, but I could see Jerry having a trade somewhere here in the next couple weeks for somebody. I have no idea what, but it wouldn't shock me if there is like a move and, this gets sorted out a little bit more. But yeah, I couldn't agree more on Haniger. Like, there's just, honestly, I would just release him. Like, you've got to pay him anyways. You're going to be paying Robbie Ray anyways, because it's essentially the Robbie Ray money, and it's just 1 year. It's $15 million. I'd rather give that roster spot to any Austin Shenton. I'd rather take a look at him. He's had some success in the big leagues when he's played. Mitch Haniger, of all those names on there, is probably like my least favorite. I feel so like maybe he bounces back. Maybe he does, but
maybe his designated hitting performance as a 260 hitter can. It's just sad to say that if he could hit 260, that's considered a wild success. Like, that's how low our standards are. Like, we don't even have that much of a standard for offensive players.
I will say this would be my one defense of Mitch Haniger. He actually hit righties okay last year. He was like a 108 WRC plus, something like that, against right-handed pitchers. So he was somewhere in that range. Like, it was okay. It was serviceable. And it was like 15 against lefties. It was atrocious. I can't imagine he's that bad against lefties. Like, do I think he's toast? Yes. But I mean, I think I would probably WRC plus 15 against lefties. Like, that's how low that is. So, I mean, I wouldn't. I'd probably WRC plus negative $1 billion. But like, there is maybe some hope that he hits lefties a little better this year, and at least gives him like a smidgen of hope, kind of to your point of like that 260, like just something that he's not going to be good, but at least it's maybe not a disaster.
I'm looking at his numbers right now, and woo, the 2024 numbers is just painful to look at. Versus righties, he batted 225, which the fact that we're saying it's good is pretty sad. Versus lefties, 178, like bad. At home. Hey, he actually hits 240 in T-Mobile.
And he had some clutch hits. Like, I'll give it to that. Mitch has always been pretty clutch and had some big moments. So, like, I don't want to ever, like, write anything off, right? Is there a chance he bounces back? Of course. Like, there is. But, like, at least with Mitch Garver, even if he's the same player he was last year, his ability to catch gives him some value. And he crushed lefties pretty well. Like, that maybe crushed is a little harsh, but he was good, very good against lefties. So there's value there. Mitch Garver has value to this team. I just, like, all those other names, like, do I think Miles Mastroboni is good? No. Do I think Leo Rivas is good? I think he's okay. But at least they can run. Like, at least Mastroboni could pinch run for Polanco or Cal in extra innings. Like, Haniger can't do that. Like, and you almost need someone to run for him. Like, at least Rowdy Tellez is a lefty in T-Mobile, so that shorter porch and right, like, there's probably a better chance he just runs into one pinch hitting for JP or Dylan Moore in the 9th inning. So I don't want to go too far on it, but I don't want Mitch Haniger on this roster. Like, I just don't.
It's painful to say, but it's necessary. But that $15 million contract. But before we get into the last part, which is the exciting part, where was I? So, Mitch Haniger. How did I forget? Like, man, just talk about this Mitch Haniger thing makes me forget so easily. It really does. Like, I literally just had something to say about it was either Mitch Haniger, and I already forgot. I don't even know what I was gonna say. I forgot already. Just so much.
We went on such a Haniger rant that
we did go on a Haniger rant, and now I just lost my train of thought. You know, that's my advice to you guys. Not you, but if you know you have to say something, but you know you're gonna forget it, write it down, or write it down on your arm, or use your phone and just type it down. That's the lesson of what to say, of like what to not forget. But yeah. Oh, Miami. I think they still have to add payroll because of the rules that Major League Baseball has. So maybe if Miami is that desperate to get a new contract or to add payroll real quickly and a very efficient way, money-wise, like real quickly, Mitch Haniger's available, but what's the asking price? Oh, probably one of our top 10 prospects, or maybe a top 15, and hopefully a top 15 if we're lucky. So there's that option, but it looks like Mariners, maybe they did call them, or
Probably
Miami
did.
called them, but then they were like, oh yeah, we want Colt Emerson, Cole Young, and Harry Ford, and the rights to your next international signing. And Mariners are like, hung up the phone.
And rightfully so, because listen, at the end of the day, it's 1 year, right? You owe Haniger the money. If it's truly that bad, where a team like, listen, I'm not against attaching a prospect and getting something back. Like, you send Haniger to Miami and you get a decent reliever back along with the prospect. But I'm not attaching, like you said, like the top prospects. It would be someone that's like in the 30 to 35 in your organization prospect range, plus Haniger. And then you get maybe something useful back, something like that. Other than that, I mean, if it's truly like where teams like, oh, we got to get this prospect, just release him, give him his money. Yeah, put him on the coaching staff. Like, seriously, let Mitch Haniger hang around. No problem with that. Like, but I mean, you owe him the money.
Ichiro. They did the same thing with Ichiro in 2018.
Yeah, but they're never going to just eat the money because it's John Stanton and company. So they're not just going to pay Mitch Haniger $15 million not to play. When truthfully, that's probably the best bet for this team, is to just pay him $15 million not to play for you. And, like I said, not mad at Haniger. I would have taken that player's option a second. That's what he should have done. He had every right to do that. So, and I'm not too mad at Haniger, like, being on this team in terms of like, because they would have had Robbie Ray's contract on the books for this year and next year, which would have been kind of a disaster with this rotation the way it is. So that wouldn't have been any value either. So I'm still fine with that trade overall, but just Haniger is, no more Haniger. I can't do it anymore.
No more.
Love you, Mitch. Love you, Mitch. I love you.
His last option the Mariners can do is just give him the Bobby Bonilla contract, and we'll have a happy Mitch Haniger National Day or Mariners Day or something.
Give him like $10 every year for the next 100 years.
Something like that. So, well, that's it. A lot of Mitch Haniger talking. And again, we love you, Mitch, and we always will.
Absolutely. Big Mitch fan.
But the big announcement, I am preparing for spring training, got the paperwork signed. I'm going to Peoria on the 15th at 6 a.m. That's when I'm on the plane. I don't know why I picked that. I don't want to explain. So, planning to meet Jay Trident podcast at the airport. Maybe I'll stick my camera on going, hey, it's Jay Trident. Nice to meet you. Finally did it. Maybe make a vlog out of it. I don't know. But we're going to be at the Mariners game before the gates open. That's the plan. And we're going to talk about, basically do the same similar show to this, but you'll see the background of us at a baseball field, or they can just put us at a wall. And that's all the view that you'll get. But hopefully we get the baseball field view. And if we're lucky, hey, they could put us on the baseball field. Wouldn't that add the dynamic to it?
Either way, we're around baseball, so there's no negative. Even if it's a wall, it's a baseball wall. So at least it's something special.
And we're planning to be together at the game. So if you do see us, talk to us, ask us questions. And I will be starting a mailbag too of, if you have any questions, I would love to answer basically any of them I possibly can. Or if you have any comments and suggestions of how to grow my channel and to do better things, because I have been getting those comments where I've been getting those like, you're overreacting to things. I'm like, so is this guy, so is that guy, so is this guy.
It's sports. I mean, technically, talking about the Mariners in general is an overreaction because it's just sports at the end of the day. So, I mean, everything's an overreaction because the grand scheme of it, none of this is that important in the grand scheme of it. You know what I mean? So anybody saying, oh, you're overreacting to, like, I mean,
of course we are. It's part of
all
sports.
Overreactions. Well, and if you got to talk about, I mean, what are you supposed to do? If you're talking about it, you're talking about it. Like, I love the ones not to like, I love my subscribers. You guys are amazing. If you're watching this, I appreciate every single one of you, but I love the comments. I don't get them too much, but I see them like people like, why are you talking about the Mariners? They stink. Well, like that's my channel. I mean, it's what I do talk about. Like, you are more than welcome to not watch. If you're done with the Mariners, I'm supported. I get it. Like, but It would be like going up to JP Crawford and be like, why are you playing baseball? Mariners stink. Like, kind of his job, It's just is what it is.
Make a living.
That was always just random to me. Like, well, it's a Mariners video. What did you think was going to be the topic of discussion in this video?
People just say things, and I get some comments where I'm like, hey, you're wrong about this. It's supposed to be this, this, and this. And I go, yes, you're absolutely correct. Now watch the last 10 seconds of the video.
Those are always my favorite too. It's like, there's 20 minutes. You watch 2 minutes. I promise you, I do call that out. Just give me a couple minutes.
That out, but you just couldn't. But you just had to watch another YouTube short, another YouTube video, because I guess, I don't know, maybe I bored you guys out.
That's fair. And I would be clear, I think I speak for both of us. We have no problem with any disagreement of any takes. That is totally fine. Like, I am not the expert on anything. So I'm not saying I'm always right by any means. In fact, I'm probably more likely not right.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm same thing too. I mean, look at me. I went from Scott Service's fault and his philosophy is insane to, oh, it's usually just regular practice in baseball anyway. So I went from that to that. And
then they fired Scott. So kind of a little vindication for you at the end.
It was. And that was the thing that, like, 2 years ago, they've been like, are you insane? He almost won manager of the year. I was like, yeah, but X, Y, and Z. And then 2 years later, now they're talking about it of everything I said. So,
but the one come full circle.
Yeah. But there is one last request I have from you Mariners fans is wish me a very safe flight. And if you believe in prayer, pray for me that I do have a safe flight, because my God, so many of these bizarre airplane stories where planes are crashing. A plane like tried to land and then they had to like, oh no, never mind, I have to go up again because we don't want to crash into that plane going upside down, plane or something caught fire, or two planes crashed into each other. Luckily no one was hurt. It was like more like their wing parts crashed into each other in SeaTac, but luckily no one got hurt. But the thing is, it seems that there's a lot of attention with airplanes rides going bizarre. So I definitely ask for prayer and good vibes or whatever you guys believe in. I mean, I got Eugenio Suarez will give me, he'll hook me up with this one. Here, I still have that clip. Where is it? Ah, here it is.
All right, guys, good vibes only. Don't forget it. Stop it. Thank you.
So he gave that one to me. And also, interestingly, earlier in the day, I actually went to church to actually reconcile and like, here's everything I did that wasn't bad, and including I said Scott Service was a horrible manager. I didn't, just kidding, but you guys get the idea. So that way, well, I usually do that before I go on planes anyway, because I have a huge plane fright, unfortunately. Flying is for droids, like Obi-Wan said. So again, would love the prayers, the good vibes, or I don't know, any kind of support or love. Throw it in the comments too. Put anything of positivity before I get on the plane and back.
Yeah, double. But yeah, no, definitely safe travels. Still the safest way to travel, to fly. So you're still making the right decision by doing that. So no worries there. You'll be good. You'll get here. It's a short flight. It's not too bad. So and hopefully the weather just holds up down here for you. I'm assuming it will. I think you'll be good.
I have a plan B. We can always do like, I don't know, maybe they'll still let us do the show, but the game's just canceled. But it's like, oh, hey, we're here.
Yeah, in truth, the main point is to do the show anyway. So that's not even like the end of the world if that happened, to be perfectly honest. So.
Yeah. Well, that is it. That'll do. And was hoping to stay within an hour, but hey, when you're making a huge prediction for a 26-man roster, like, no surprise there.
Mitch Haniger.
And yeah, Mitch Haniger ate up our show. So maybe the title of the show would be like, "We Still Love You, Mitch," or something. I don't know. But that'll do it. Thank you very much. Thank you, J Trident Podcast. And remember, Hit the like button, subscribe, notification, subscribe to J Trident. Use my promo code RoofTopSports for your $20 off for that spring training ticket. And everyone, go Mariners.
Go Mariners.